Tim O'Malley with Tim Priester outside the Goog following Brian Kelly's opening press conference to preview the Louisville game. Tim, the depth chart came out. Really not a lot of revelation there, considering we were at half of the practices in August. We probably wouldn't be doing our job if we missed a lot on those. And then some no news is decent news on Kevin Austin, I suppose.
Yeah, Brian Kelly says he's still on the team and he expects him to stay in school, which was something that we reported as well, that we don't think he's necessarily going to look for a transfer here. We don't have clarity on 4 games of the whole year. I guess we'll know in Game 5 for sure, but we know what we reported was accurate. If things changed after that, that's how the 4-game stuff came into play.
Not really news, but Sean Crawford did seem to win the field cornerback role. Tariq Bracy and Dante Vaughn will play. Houston Griffith was listed as a backup at both. I think Brian Kelly kind of noted he came on late after missing some time with soft tissue injuries. The linebacker depth chart surprised us, but then after talking to Kelly, it just seems like they're all going to be playing anyway. Shane Simon and Jordan Jemarkeith were not on there. Kelly was quick to point out they will be playing. Jack Lamb and Bo Bauer were listed as backups, and as expected, Drew Light and Asmar Bilal won the jobs, and I really think the rest of the depth chart kind of played out as we saw in August.
Other than White and Bilal, we still don't really know.
Right.
I mean, at least at that position, the depth chart almost didn't make sense considering all the mixing and matching going on there. We'll find out in the game. You know, I mean, you have to, and I asked Brian Kelly about, last year he had a pat hand at cornerback. This year you're looking to use more, but can you rotate guys on the last line of defense? So we're going to know more on Saturday, but the usual suspects are involved at both linebacker and cornerback.
I'm interested to see how Kelly's defense kind of attacks head coach Scott Satterfield from Louisville. At Appalachian State, he was an inventive guy, I think, because he had to be. He probably still has to be against Notre Dame in this year with the roster he has at Louisville, but it's a much bigger line. It's a much bigger quarterback, and Kelly kind of admitted there's just going to be a little bit of kind of finding your way through the game, and he also wants to know what his defense and how his team will approach the game. I thought it was odd. He said we had a couple years ago a team that wanted to dominate, and he's not sure what he has this year in that regard.
You don't think that Notre Dame's going to play a 4-2-5 against a 235-pound quarterback like they did a few years ago with Brian Van Gorder as the coordinator? I don't think that will happen. I think they'll have a much better plan. You know, you look at Louisville, and they do have a Qual Becton, their left tackle is very, very good. But, you know, they don't have a lot of depth there. They don't have a lot of numbers. And I would think that Notre Dame's defensive line is in a position to overwhelm them a little bit. It'll be a good matchup with Okwara against Becton. That'll be interesting to watch. Dalen Hayes is another guy that Brian Kelly singled out as having a really, really good August. A guy that apparently we haven't even asked a question about. And that's a good tie-in with today's story on the best non-starters, because we had Dalen Hayes as the best of that group, and apparently he's had August to match that.
A quick update on the wide receivers, because you asked a follow-up question about the running back's role in that game. It is Braden Lenzy behind Chris Fink, Lawrence Keys ahead of Joe Wilkins, and of course Javon McKinley backing up Chase Claypool. That's all that was listed, but really what it is there's a bunch of running backs that can go help out that unit, especially as Michael Young and Cole Kmet try to recover.
Well, I think that's really key. Without Young and Kmet and Austin, you're missing 3 of your top 6, 7, 8 receivers, so you have to fill in that gap somehow. You'll do that with Tommy Tremble, and fortunately you have at least 3 running backs that can play the slot and create some matchup issues for Louisville's linebackers.
We'll be back here tomorrow night for player interviews, have our Irish Illustrated Insider podcast prior, and then Tim Priester's preview will go up over the weekend before we head down to Louisville for the season opener against the Cardinals.